Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. What I've got for you is a Casablanca Zephyr in brushed pewter. Now, depending on how you see this finish, it may look rather similar to either chrome or antique brass. And depending on the lighting, that is definitely something that can happen. But it is its own finish, and it is a pewter finish. And this ceiling fan has an Emerson K63 motor in it. It's from June of 1980. And out of the original 9 finishes that Casablanca offered, brushed pewter is the rarest of the original 9. Some of the less common finishes of Casablanca's original 9, such as charcoal black or traditional brown, those finishes were popular at the time but have since been phased out, Finishes like black and brown for things like ceiling fans were pretty popular back in the late 70s and early 80s. However, since then, times have changed, design trends have come and gone, and they've since been phased out. So most brown and black Casablanca fans have probably since been replaced when, people are updating or renovating their house. Pewter, on the other hand, is the opposite. While this finish would be relatively popular and high in demand nowadays, back in the late 70s and early 80s, that was not the case. Pewter was not a popular color back then, The things in demand were things like brass and copper to an extent, and brown and black, and perhaps white as well, but pewter was a no-no. So not many people wanted this finish for their ceiling fan. Therefore, this finish sold in very low numbers, in turn making it the least common finish of Casablanca's original 9. And of course, the other 8 of the original 9 finishes would be traditional brown, charcoal black, antique copper, polished copper, antique white, antique brass, polished brass, and chrome, or nickel chromium, as its full name is. Anyways, so now we'll go ahead and ignite power. And I have not adjusted the trim pot on this fan yet, so the cardboard box variable speed knob is set to as slow as it can go, and as you can see, it's hardly enough power to get the fan going. If you look really closely, you can see it barely moving, but yeah, it's spinning ever so slightly. So I probably will adjust the trim pot a little on this thing later, but for now this works. Moving about as slow as maybe the minute hand on a clock. You can just barely see it moving. Though it is picking up a little speed. And something else worth noting about this fan is that I believe it has one of the smaller K63 motors in it, as the high speed is still pretty fast, but I've definitely seen K63 Casablancas that go faster on their full speeds. And also the buzz and 60 cycle hum on this fan is quieter than some of my other cardboard box variable speed fans, which leads me to believe that the motor is smaller. Anyways, we'll turn it up a bit. And thankfully this ceiling fan is in really good shape. It has all its pieces, and the darker oak blades match really well with this fan. And for being over 40 years old, just generally speaking, it's nice and clean, and it's everything about it is quite well. I'll turn it up some more. Turn it up some more. Yeah, so like I said earlier, brushed pewter of the original 9 finishes Casablanca offered was the least common, and as such, very few of these have surfaced. The Zephyr was offered in all 9 of the original finishes. And a pewter Zephyr is probably the hardest to find out of all 9 of them. The Victorian, that one's a little more confusing, as that one was only offered in some finishes. I know the Victorian was offered in pewter, as I have seen pewter Victorians. And then the Victorian was also offered in, I think, antique copper, both brasses, and then there were a few combo finishes as well. And I believe also, in that case, pewter was the rarest for the Victorian. Four Seasons, on the other hand, it's a little different, as I've actually seen more pewter Four Seasons surface than most of the other finishes, like charcoal black, traditional brown, or antique copper. And again, as far as I'm aware, the Four Seasons was offered in all 9 of the original finishes. Yet, for some reason, pewter seems to be a bit more common with the Four Seasons. Well, not more common, but more common relative to the other finishes, which you, for some reason, almost never see. Anyways, we'll kick this up some more. And you do get a little bit of a wobble at this point. The fan is pretty well balanced, but with the way that K63 Casablanca's mount, wobble is inevitable 95% of the time. Also, the rubber bushings on the mounting hook were starting to wear away, so they couldn't grip it quite as tightly, so that might also be a contributing factor. And that's almost full speed there. And despite the fact that it's not the fastest K63 Casablanca out there, performance is still optimal, as is par for the course with Casablanca fans. And there's full speed. And there you go. A Casablanca Zephyr with a K63 motor in the rare brushed pewter finish.